G'day, g'day. My name's Alan Gamble. Welcome to another episode of Aussie Box Office Charts. Spicy weekend last weekend, so let's get right into it. How to Train Your Dragon, the live-action remake, holds top spot this week again with $4.9 million. Its second week, dropping just 27% for a current total of $13.2 million. 28 years later, the long-anticipated sequel to 28 Weeks Later and 28 Days Later opens in second position with $2.5 million. We will check in on that shortly. Materialists sits at number 3, dropping just another 26% in its week 2 for a current total of just over $4.4 million, bringing in another $1.4 million this weekend. Lilo and Stitch in week 5 drops just 36% for a current total of $27.4 million, bringing in another $1.1 million last weekend, which, after 5 weeks of release, it still made more than our number 5, the new entry to the charts, Pixar's latest movie, Elio, opening to $764,000. That is not a great number. We'll dive more into Pixar and their history a little bit later. But first, jumping over to 6 through 10. Number 6 sees Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, bringing in another $677,000 in its 5th week of release, dropping 26% for a current total of $22.4 million. And The Final Reckoning is actually now only about $50,000 from being the highest grossing Mission Impossible movie in Australian history. However, that's unadjusted for inflation. But it's getting there, and it's a good sign. Karate Kid Legends is at number 7 with another $651,000 its 3rd week of release, dropping 42% for a current total of just over $6.2 million. Sitaare Zameen, a Hindi language comedy out of India, and it sounds like the Woody Harrelson movie Champions from 2023. It sounds like an identical movie based on the synopsis that I read, but it is in number 8 with $440,000. Ballerina drops another 46% in week 3, bringing in another $438,000 for a current total of just over $4 million. It's just short of the total gross at $4 million of John Wick Chapter 2. Needs around $150,000 more, which it should get to pass John Wick Chapter 2, but that's as far as it's going to go. It's not going to supplant Chapter 3 or Chapter 4, but it's a spin-off of a franchise. Sometimes this happens. And at number 10, bringing in $140,000, is Kuberaa, which is a Telugu language crime thriller out of India about a billionaire that uses homeless people to launder money, and one of them escapes with a huge amount of money, and a chase is started to get that money back. But you are rooting for the guy that stole the money in this movie because he's homeless, and the billionaire guy is a bad guy. So always good to see Indian cinema represented in the Aussie charts because we're quite a multicultural country. So first, let's take a look at 28X later movies in the Australian market, their opening weekends. 28 Days Later back in 2003 opened to $946,000. 28 Weeks Later in 2007 opened to $730,000. And 28 Years Later just opened to $2.5 million. So we've got a franchise best opening by at least 2.5 times. So great showing. Even if we adjust those numbers for inflation, it's still well ahead, we can see here. And interestingly, if we take a look at the total domestic gross from the franchise, 28 Years Later, in its opening weekend, had made more than 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later did their entire box office run in Australia. So, smash hit for the franchise. Even adjusted for inflation, it's only a few $100,000 behind. Great movie. I went and saw it. I really enjoyed it. I think it's much better than the second one, but it's still not on par with the first one for me. But it was still a really solid movie. However, that's not the case for the next movie we're going to look at. Pixar and its Elio. So, first up, this is Pixar's movies from as far back as I could go. The only movie I couldn't find an opening gross for was Toy Story back in 1995. However, this is every movie and how much it opened to in the Australian domestic market in the year that it did. So you can see there, A Bug's Life, Toy Story 2, Monsters Inc., and then Finding Nemo just blew everything out of the water back in 2003. Then they were bought by Disney. The Incredibles actually opened really low in 2004, but then you've got Cars and Ratatouille and WALL-E and Up. And you can see here, they've all opened fairly well, with the very lowest being Coco prior to 2020, which opened to $1.6 million. Then we have Onward, Soul, Luca, and Turning Red, all which didn't get a theatrical release in Australia when they released. They went straight to Disney+, and then some of them got theatrical releases a year or so later. Those ones can be safely ignored. Lightyear did get a theatrical release and opened to $2.9 million, but there you can see right at the end, Elio opening to $760,000. If you remove those 4 COVID closure movies, it is by far, by at least almost half, the lowest opening Pixar movie ever. So, sorting it by gross, you can see here, this is what we're looking at for now. Terrible opening, and while Elemental did open really low at $1.5 million, it had really, really good legs. Elio needs to pray that it can do that. Now, it does have the benefit of school holidays starting next week. So there is some room there for it to make some money, but it will need to make a lot. Jumping across to the 2025 top 10 for the Australian box office. Only a couple of changes, but one noticeable one. A Minecraft movie, Lilo and Stitch, Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning, Paddington in Peru, Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy. No changes there at positions 1 through 5. Thunderbolts still number 6 with $13.9 million. Captain America at number 7 at $13.8 million. New entry at number 8, How to Train Your Dragon, after just a couple of weeks of release, enters the chart at $13.2 million, which pushes down Sinners at $11.3 million and Snow White at $9.1 million. Dropping out of the 2025 top 10 is Conclave, finally out of the charts, but there's the top 10 as it stands so far. We will see how far up How to Train Your Dragons moves in upcoming weeks. Also, F1 coming out this week. Going to be some competition. Speaking of F1, upcoming theatrical releases for this week, 26th of June. Wide release, we have F1, the movie, sometimes it's called. The newest big summer blockbuster from the writer-director team-up of Top Gun Maverick, Joseph Kosinski and Erin Kruger, starring Brad Pitt, Kerry Condon, and Damson Idris. I'll be catching this one for sure. We also have Megan 2.0, the follow-up to the well-regarded surprise slasher from 2022 from the same writer-director as the first movie, Akela Cooper and Gerald Johnston, starring Alison Williams, Violet McGrath, and Amy Donald. In limited release, so you may be able to find these, but you may have to hunt for them in your local cinemas, we have, and I'm going to butcher these ones, Harihara Veera Malu, Part 1, Sword vs. Spirit. A Telugu language historical action movie about the outlaw Veera Malu from India. We also have Sardaji 3, a Punjabi language film out of India, the third installment of this adventure comedy series. And lastly, Something Beautiful, a music film that is accompanying Miley Cyrus with her new 9th studio album. So if you're into those music album movies tie-ins, this is one for you. Across on streaming, not too much, but we do have a new miniseries over on Apple TV, Smoke. A new miniseries about an arson investigator teaming up with a police detective, and this one is from the creator of Blackbird, Dennis Lehane, which was a very, very good crime drama from 2022. If you haven't caught it, do yourself a favour with that one. This one is also starring Taron Egerton, Jurnee Smollett, and John Leguizamo. In returning series, we have, on the 27th of June, Squid Game returning for Season 3, its final season, over on Netflix. I've never watched past Season 1, as I didn't feel it needed any more than Season 1. But if you're keen for it, it's here for you soon. And on Disney Plus, or Hulu, but Hulu has been bought by Disney Plus now. So on Disney Plus, Season 4 of The Bear is also releasing on the 26th of June, if that's your cup of tea. I watched and loved the first season long before anyone else was raving about the series, and then I haven't caught any more since. So I do need to catch up on that one. So, only 3 movies for last week's challenge of vocal communication, due to me having to smash through rewatches of all of the 28 Days Later movies before the new one I saw on Sunday. But let's dive into what I did watch. First up was The Greatest Night in Pop from 2024, a music documentary about a one-night recording of We Are the World in 1985. For challenge eligibility, it's about the production of a song. You can't get much more vocal than that. A really interesting documentary putting a huge amount of the world's biggest pop stars of the time in a single room for a single night of recording. Pretty wild stuff. Like Bob Dylan, Michael Jackson, Lionel Richie, so many names. There were so many names, it was crazy. But yeah, pretty amazing feat and a pretty solid movie about it. Next up was Intergalactic from 2022, directed by Fletcher Mules and putting Kid Cudi's story to life in this animated feature. For challenge eligibility, it's a very music-heavy romantic drama. Animated, but that doesn't mean it's not vocal. But I did pick this because Kid Cudi is a musician. A really stunning animated movie that was really solid to boot. Great cast, great soundtrack, and some gorgeous animation. So you can't go too wrong with it. Finally was My Dead Friend Zoe from earlier this year. Directed by Kyle Houseman-Stokes and starring Sonika Martin-Green and Natalie Morales. For challenge eligibility, it's about a person talking to their dead friend. I really like this one. Great movie, great characters, and a great story that went a few places I didn't expect. Solid entry to the list, and I'm glad I caught up on this one from 2025 because it's been on my watch list for a while. For this week's Cinechums Movie Challenge, the theme is 7 Deadly Sins. So, anything that might be wrath, greed, lust, envy, pride, sloth, or gluttony. So we've got a lot of options for any of those things. We could go with Amadeus or Casino. We could go for envy or greed as actual titles. We could go with things like Parasite and Seven or Trainspotting. But let's have a look at my shortlist. My shortlist has things like Lady Snowblood for vengeance, One of Them Days for sloth, Vengeance for vengeance, Ambulance for greed, Sanctuary for lust, Black Bear for envy, House of Pleasure, or Lady Vengeance. So we'll see how we go. That is it for me this week. Tune in next week where we will be looking at the weekend performance of F1, the new big blockbuster, as well as Megan 2.0 and how it compares to the first one. We'll be checking in on Elio to see if it's doing anything decent, and we will update on all the other charts that we've got going on. But that's it for me this week. I will see you again next week and watch more movies. Bye!